after my sophomore year, I became a personal assistant, dorm daddy type person. So that paid for.
Is that what they called it?
Well, that's what I called it.
Dorm daddy. That's good.
Well,
I'm calling all residential
the university called it
that from
personnel assistant.
Yeah.
I called it dorm daddy because that's what I did, is basically pick up beer cans from guys that lived on our floor.
Yes, there you go.
Tell them to be quiet at 2:00 in the morning so the rest of us could sleep.
Oh, man.
Are my shorts going to show?
We can.
No, I don't want my legs to show.
Yeah, we can crop in some pants for you.
All right, you guys are live.
We're live?
Yeah.
All right, sweet. So we are in the closet of this space. You own this building before me. What do you remember what this was? Or at least when you owned this building, what did you use this space for? What was it used for?
When my wife and I bought this building, it was an old chicken house and a company by the name of Brockman Feed and Seed owned this building at one time. Merle Brockman was a grandson, I believe, of Mr. Brockman. And Merle was a guy around town. He's probably been, I don't know, he passed away not too long ago.
Okay.
I heard. But when I was growing up here, I remember coming to town with my parents, and there was actually a feed and seed store downstairs.
Okay, so the feeds, because people have said like chicken coop, but I can't tell if they're like using that to like really play up. What was there actually like chickens back in here?
Well, I guess that they were maintaining chickens here. I never came to the back part of the store.
Okay.
But when we remodeled this place, there were actually screens on the windows. There were no windows in this part of the building, and they were actually screens that kept the chickens from flying out the window. And there was double the number of windows. We boxed in half the windows.
Yeah, so I noticed that when we were doing remodeling, because with that glass, they had a bear of a time like working with flush walls. And you remember those blueprints that you had?
Yes.
It showed where all those extra windows were that you guys closed up. And if you just stand on one of the walls and look, you can tell, because I'm guessing it might have been like the real 2x4s versus the new 2x4s in the construction, and the whole wall just goes all the way down. So, but chicken feed in the basement.
In the very basement was a kind of a homemade cooler where he kept eggs, I guess, and anything that needed refrigeration. They insulated the walls and they put ice in there, and it was essentially a gigantic walk-in cooler.
And is that like where the apartments are now?
Yes, in the downstairs. Wow. It was pretty rough when we got a hold of it.
Yeah. When was that operating? Like,
oh gosh, that had been turn of the century.
Wow.
The 20s, 30s maybe.
Yeah.
Of course, I was born in 1945, so it had been about 1950 when it actually went out of business.
Gotcha. What was it after that?
Well, it was a medical office for a while.
Okay. You're talking about the whole building, because the front was...
Just the front part. The back part was basically vacant.
Really?
And was used for storage. When we bought the
Chicken
building...
coop graveyard. Yeah.
When we bought the building from Mr. Hawkins, who was kind of a hoarder, anything he had, he just put back here in the back. I mean, there was big pieces of furniture, there was law books, there was... You just name it. There's a little bit of everything.
Well, now it makes sense that turned into an antique store, because it just sold all the
junk
that he had left over.
Well, as it sat vacant for a while, people were kind of helping themselves to some of the more valuable items because we had no way of securing it.
Like just coming in and grabbing stuff.
Well, yeah.
Door unlocked or locked?
Well, we locked it kind of, but it was a hard building to secure.
Yeah.
But then once we got going on the remodeling job, we just cleaned it out and started. And it was quite a job remodeling.
Yeah. When did you purchase this building?
Around 2000.
2000.
I think it was.
Gotcha. So talk me through the progression of, buying it. Why did you buy it? How did you come across it? And then the remodel, were you swinging hammers too, or did you just find people?
No. I'm not very handy with a hammer.
Yeah.
The building came up, well, Mr. Hawkins died, and his family wanted to sell it. And at that time, there was tax credits available for rehabbing it, and it's qualified as a historic building. And so kind of a combination of things, but I decided it would be a good idea to buy it, rehab it, take advantage of tax credits that are available, and add something nice to the community.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of a win-win
Yeah.
situation.
Will you tell me how much you snagged it for in '99? It's okay if you don't want to share that number.
How much I
How
went
much you paid for it in '99?
for this entire lot,
Yeah.
and the adjoining lot, I paid $13,000, I think it was. It wasn't much. But it wasn't in much shape.
Sure, right. Yeah, you weren't buying fully remodeled.
No, I'll take it back. It was around $15,000. I paid $13,000 for my office building that I rehabbed. But yeah, I bought it from the family,
Okay.
and
Were you
it
connected
was-
to him through your practice, or was
I
it
just knew about it
knew about it,
when he died.
advantages of a small town? You know.
Yeah,
Yep.
and it was kind of an eyesore for a while. It was completely vacant, of course, when we bought it.
Yep. Even all the front and the apartments upstairs. And
Yes,
everything? Wow.
the whole works was
Yeah.
empty.
So you weren't buying a cash flowing property at that.
And Mr. Hawkins had a liquor store across the way.
Oh, that's the same one.
Yes, and when he died, the liquor that wasn't sold in the store, he just brought over and put in the basement down here. And so that's part of the property we inherited.
Oh.
About a dozen bottles of whiskey.
Yep. No drunk guys down there.
No.
That's good.
There was, interesting, there was several cases of beer that were many years old. And apparently,
doesn't age like wine,
apparently,
no.
I mean, it was brands that I don't even think are on the market anymore. Gluckstein was one of them. I remember that one.
Yeah.
Apparently, somebody broke in one time and drank a bottle or two, or a can or two of that beer, and they left the rest of it behind. It had to be stale and nasty.
Sick and fermented and ugh. Goodness.
So we threw more stuff away than we kept. Let's put it that way. A few things we sold, but
Well, take me through your life. I mean, Fayette's, you're a hometown boy, is what you would say, right? I mean, you were
yes.
here for a long time, but start wherever you want to start.
well, I was born in Kansas City.
Okay.
Was adopted by my parents,
Okay.
Omer and Thelma Foley, when I was 6 months old. Until about 5, I lived up around the Burton area. My dad had a farm up in that area. And then they moved to Fayette and to live on my mother's home place
Okay.
in about 1950. And they moved so I could go to school in the Fayette schools.
Why? I mean,
School
was it-
system.
Was
Well,
it really well renowned at that point? Or?
I mean, Burton was, 12, 15 miles from Fayette.
Gotcha.
I don't know what school district that had been in,
Right.
but
So
they wanted me to
Burton
be able
was 12, 15 miles from here?
I
I haven't even
guess.
heard of it. Is it
Well,
still? Is there still?
Not Burton, Bunker Hill. I'm sorry.
okay.
I'm sorry.
I haven't heard
I said Burton.
Okay,
I
I
meant
have heard
Bunker Hill.
Bunker Hill.
All these big towns, you get
yeah.
confused.
Once they get over 1,000.
That's right.
Yeah.
I doubt if there ever was 1,000 people in that area.
No.
So I grew up on a farm 4 miles outside of town here. My parents had building a big house out there, and it burned down to start with. And I remember the first memories I have of living in this area was sitting on the highway out there watching this house burn down. And I would have been about 5 years old then.
Why did it burn? What happened?
They don't know what caused it, but they were just ready to move into it. It wasn't furnished, but it was finished.
Was insurance kind of like a thing back then, or?
I don't know. But they rebuilt it again.
Okay. Nice.
J.T. Golden and another carpenter built it for $1 an hour.
Nice.
That's what they tell me. I didn't know for sure.
It's kind of like, your fish
They
was
did
this
something.
big,
They
and
did
this
something
big, and
rather unusual, though, and very out of character for my parents. Anybody that knows them, my dad was the county superintendent of schools during the 30s, early 40s, and he was in charge of getting transportation for all the rural schools. This was before they consolidated the rural schools into Fayette. And he had all the bus companies were soliciting his approval of buying a bus from them to transport the students. And so as part of their promotion, they would give him calendars. And the calendars one year happened to have pictures of these houses along the river down in Louisiana, like plantation-type houses, with the big columns in front, the 2 stories and all that. And anyone familiar with our place can see what I'm talking about. And they did something out of character. My mom said, that house would look really good on this hilltop. And they got in a car and took J.T. Golden with them, and they drove down and found that house that was pictured on this calendar from a bus company. They found the house, they found the owners, they got the plans from the owners, brought it back up here, and they said, we're going to build this house on this hilltop. Wow. And that's what they did.
Man, I feel like that would be like, I miss it feels like the world is too fast now to ever be able to create a memory like that. Like, I'm just imagining them hopping in a car with their contractor, driving how many hours? I mean,
it was several hundred miles from here.
I mean, just driving that many hours just to
on the banks of the river.
Yes,
the Mississippi River.
Yes, and I'm sure not the fanciest travel car either.
Oh no.
No,
I'm sure it wasn't a new car. I don't think they ever bought a new car in their lives.
But yeah, I mean, I gotta imagine how fun that would be. I think that would be fun. Maybe in the moment, the contractor's like, oh man. But maybe do you think that was fairly normal for people to just drive to the houses they wanted to build?
That was very abnormal for them.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's the story of the house.
Yeah. Was J.T. Golden from around here?
Yes.
Okay.
In fact, he lived just less than 2 miles, or less than a mile probably, from my parents' house.
Gotcha. Still around?
And in fact, the industrial park here in Fayette is named the J.T. Golden Park.
Is it really? I don't think I knew that.
Yeah. And
That's
they
the
kind of
one
named it
behind,
in his honor. He was really a great guy, very good carpenter.
He's passed.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
But that's the park behind the derailed commodity.
Yes.
All in there.
Yes.
That kind of stuff.
Well, yes.
That is derailed. Yeah, it's all in there. So, yeah, I wish I could do something with that building. That would be a fun one. Not that I need any more projects, but
you don't need any more projects.
But that could be a good one. Either I don't know. I mean, you were a business owner at Fayette for a long time. I feel like sometimes I think what would be fun would be, I don't know, like a lawn and garden center. But then I'm like, not that many people are doing landscape.
It's not very visible from the road is a problem.
Derailed? You're talking about? Or the park behind it?
Well, derail is visible, but the part behind it is not.
Right. No, I'm talking about derailed the building because it's just a furniture storage place now, which is fine that somebody's using it. But, I mean, I feel like it's the sign as you come into town is derailed commodity. And I'm like, this business hasn't been around in years. So, but anyway, so grew up here. Your family got here mostly just to get to got here through the farm.
They moved down to my mom's home place.
Yeah.
And then I started school, and I went to Liberty School, which is a rural school about 2 miles north of our home.
Okay.
And it's the school my mom went to. So we both graduated from the same grade school.
Yeah.
So I went to school there. I had 4 people in my graduating class from 8th grade.
Do you remember who they are?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Ken Broman was one of them.
Really?
Galen Shook, Eddie Overstreet, which is Lawrence Overstreet's older brother. Me. That was it.
Wow.
That was it. So went to high school here in Fayette. Graduated in a class of, I think there was 49.
That's pretty big. For Fayette now,
class,
anyway.
yes.
We had 50 in mine, and it was like one of the biggest they'd seen in a very long time. So,
And lost 3 of them in Vietnam.
wow.
Finished high school here, then went to MU for undergraduate.
To learn what?
Well, I started out not knowing what I wanted to do, as most college.
Normal.
That's pretty normal.
And back then, was it a pretty cheap experiment, or was it at the like relative to the cost? Like right now, college is crazy expensive. Was it kind of that same
tuition
feeling?
was ridiculously low. It was $200 and some dollars.
But did that
a
feel
semester.
high at that time?
No, not really.
Okay,
It
so
was-
worth
it was
it at
pretty,
that
pretty
point.
affordable.
Sure.
Actually.
Yeah. Man, 200. Dadgummit.
$280 or $90 a semester.
Wow.
Of course, you had to buy books.
Yeah.
Then you had, dorm and all that business.
Food, dorm. Yep.
After my sophomore year, I became a personnel assistant, a dorm daddy type person. So
Okay,
that,
sure.
that paid for
Is that what
my-
they called it?
Well, that's what I called it.
Dorm daddy. That's good.
Well,
I'm calling all
the
residential
university
hall
called
people
it
that from now
personnel
on.
assistant.
Yeah, yeah.
I called it dorm daddy because that's what I did, is basically pick up beer cans from guys that lived on our floor.
Yes, there you go.
Tell them to be quiet at 2:00 in the morning so the rest of us could sleep.
Oh, man.
So I did that and started out in arts and science, then decided that I didn't like the foreign language requirement and was having difficulty with that, so I switched to business school, graduated with a degree in business in '67. The Vietnam War was going hot and heavy then, so I wanted to get my military service out of the way before I did anything else, so I volunteered for the draft.
So you say you wanted to get that out of the way. What do you mean by?
I wanted to go into business.
Okay.
I had a business degree, and I had several offers of employment from some major employers, IBM, Caterpillar,
yeah.
and a gas company, one of the gas companies that's no longer in business.
Good choice. Yeah.
So, I'm sure it got merged into another one. No,
Yeah.
gas
Nobody's ever
company
died.
goes
yeah.
out of business.
Yeah. But you kind of said it like it was like required to go do the military service.
Well, you had no choice. I was 1A in the draft, and it's either volunteer and go in, August, or
involuntary. Go
involuntarily I could wait a couple of months and go in. I didn't want to go through basic training in the winter months at Fort Leonard Wood, which is where I figured I was going.
So it was just like you knew that you were going to have to do that.
Well, yeah, and I felt like I should.
Gotcha.
So I did. Got drafted. Never thinking they would put a college graduate in the infantry, but they did. So I served, went through went to Fort Leonard Wood, Fort Polk, Fort Benning, ultimately to Vietnam. And I was in the military a total of 20 months and 21 days. But who's counting, right?
Somebody did. You, sounds like. You got any pictures of you from back at that time? I mean, were you just in the best shape of your life?
I was in good shape at that time, much better than I am now.
Sure. You're still looking pretty good.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm married to a dietitian. So
Yes. When did she?
that has a lot to do with it.
Yeah. When did she come along? Before you went to?
Well, that's another kind of interesting story. Interesting to me, anyway.
Well, that's why I asked you. Yeah.
I got home from the military and didn't know what I wanted to do and was kind of lost
Yeah.
in terms of after what I'd been through in the military. So I went. I had a friend of mine that was a conscientious objector and went to Alaska to do civil service as opposed to military service.
Yeah.
So I was in contact with him, and he said, well, come on up to Alaska, and I can find a job for you. So I flew up to Alaska and spent the summer. We were installing sewer lines for the Indians living on the Arctic Circle. It's kind of an exotic thing to do.
A lot of
but
people won't
the
have that
government
on their
was paying-
resume.
The government
Yeah.
was paying for it. I wanted something to do, and it was interesting.
Right.
Beautiful scenery. It was before they opened up the oil lines up there. So, I mean.
And you know a lot about plumbing at that time.
Well, not much. There was only 7 roads up there, numbered 1 through 7.
Wow.
I mean, it was pretty wild.
Yeah.
And
Well, you said you flew up there. Was that out of the old Columbia Airport?
oh no,
No, okay. Because I remember we talked about that one time where I guess Cosmo Park was an
Cosmos
airport.
Park used to be the Columbia Airport, and
they
I
do
flew
not
out of
tell
there a
you
time or two. In fact,
Yeah.
I flew to the interview with Caterpillar
That's right.
in Des
Yeah.
Moines.
Just direct to Des Moines. It went.
Old tail dragger. It wasn't Des Moines. Was it Des Moines?
I feel like that's where
I
they're
think
at.
that's where CAT
Yeah.
headquarters is.
I think you're right.
It's old tail dragger DC-3s. First airplane ride I ever took. That was before I went in the Army, see.
Yeah.
So anyway, stayed up in Alaska, and then I came back and I went into the university. I had a degree in business.
Right.
So I went to the university and said, "You got any job openings?"
Sure.
He said, "Yeah. We have an opening in the payroll department and student loans." So I said, "Well, I'll take it, you know."
Yeah. Right.
And they said it was an accounting job. It didn't involve much accounting. I was sending done letters to doctors who had graduated from the med school that were refusing to pay their student loans.
Done letters. What do you mean?
Well, you know, demand letters.
Okay.
You need to pay your student loan.
Yeah.
And
We're about to repo your degree or something like that.
well, and we kept our records on 8x5 index cards.
Oh my gosh.
And it was a horrible job. I started the day after Labor Day and quit the day before Labor Day the next year.
So you made it a year.
I made it a year.
Yeah.
Toughed it out.
It's good for you because a lot of people, when they hate a job, they're done.
So in the
2
meantime,
weeks. Yeah.
you were asking me what had happened. In the meantime, I was living in an apartment
Yeah.
and cooking my own food, which I hated. And I was shopping around for different churches to go to.
Sure.
So I went to this one church in Columbia, Calvary Baptist, and they were having a student dinner that day, where it was to encourage students to come be a part of the fellowship. Mm-hmm. And since I didn't like to cook, and they were offering meal, I went.
Oh yeah.
I went
That's
in
right.
as a
College
student.
ministry 101
I
right
went
there. Yeah.
in as
Feed 'em.
as a student, even though I wasn't.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, because you weren't a student. Yep.
And they had in this gymnasium, they had tables set up and food, you go through a food line and everything. And I saw this really pretty blonde girl. And so I went over and tried to talk to her and introduce herself. And she kind of tolerated me, but didn't say too much. And
You didn't walk up with like a really good pickup line or anything?
well, I wasn't into pickup lines then.
You didn't need them, yeah.
So I tried to visit with her, no luck. And she was sitting next to this other girl, which I thought was nice, but you know, she's okay.
I don't know where this is going.
And I had the car I bought when I came back from the Army. I had to have a hot rod, so I bought a '65 GTO,
Okay, all right.
blue with white vinyl interior,
Yeah.
2-door hardtop, run like a scalded cat, pass anything but a gas station. And
That's good. That's a good line. That's good.
So I took the girls back to the dorm, and I got the name of the girl I was interested in, and I got her phone number. Somehow I managed to do that. I'm not sure how that happened. And I kept calling the dorm, week after week. I'd say, is she there? Well, the person answering the phone said, no, she's not in the office. Can I take a message? And I said, so I'd leave my name and number, never hear back from her. And it turns out that my wife, Cindy, was the one answering the phone and was the girl that was sitting next to the girl I was interested in.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness.
And Cindy knows this story. I'm not telling anything out of school. So Cindy's my wife, by the way,
Yes.
in case you don't know.
Yeah.
So I kept calling for this other girl. Cindy kept answering the phone. And then at that year, in that fall, Missouri had a good football team. Missouri football has gone up and down, as you know.
Right.
Well, that year we were playing in the Orange Bowl.
Wow.
And I wanted to go with a couple of my roommates. And so I called the dorm where Cindy was at and saying, I'm looking for football tickets. Well, of course, she answers the phone. She was on phone duty all the time, I guess. And so somehow she managed to help me get football tickets.
Okay.
So we went to Orange Bowl. I came back, tried again to call this girl. No luck. So I thought, well, Cindy, they're answering the phone. So I asked her out. And one thing.
Do you think she just never passed? What would she say on the other side of the story? Did she ever pass that message along to her friend, or was she?
Well, I don't know.
Was she holding that tight? Like, did she like you from the first time she saw you, or how would she tell it?
I don't know how she would tell it.
We'll get her on then.
You'll get her on. Let her tell her version of the story. Anyway, it worked out. We've been married over 50 years.
Wow. Awesome.
So I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I applied for law school, got into law school.
Where at? At Mizzou?
MU.
Okay.
That I applied while I was still working at the university. And I was either going to go to law school or become a realtor. That's why I narrowed things down to. But I wanted to be, self-employed.
Are you living in Fayette at this point, or in Columbia?
I was living in Columbia in an apartment.
Okay. So you knew you want to be self-employed. That was the no.
No, well, I wanted to be self-employed. I didn't want to be working for somebody else.
Right.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So
after that one run in the accounting department, you're like, I'm never working for anybody again.
That cured me right there for sure. Let's see, lost. Where did I go from there?
Well, you were law school and realtor.
Okay.
Which law school sounds like not the
got
easier
accepted
of the
to
two.
law school miraculously. I don't know exactly how that happened because I don't think I did very well on the entrance exam. Anyway, I hung on through law school and managed to get out of it. And we got married after my first year in law school. And then she played kind of hard to get for a while.
After you were married, or before?
No.
Okay.
No.
It's like, following your progression.
After we were married, we're solid.
I was going to say, I was like, what?
But before that, she played a little hard to get. But anyway, I got her.
You probably earned it a little bit.
Well,
I bet if I asked her, she liked you every time you called after she rode in that hot rod, back from the church.
Well,
so she's like, I'm going to give him a little taste of his own medicine.
I don't know if that impressed her as much as it impressed me. I really loved that car. I made a serious mistake when I sold it.
Everybody I talked to who owned cars back then regrets every single time they've sold a car from back then.
I've had lots of cars that I wish I'd had back.
Yeah.
I paid $1,600 for it, sold it for $1,200, and I thought I'd killed a fat hog. I had really done well because I had 2 years of use out of it, 2 sets of tires.
Yeah. Google a 1965 GTO.
Yes.
Hey, bring your
Mic down. Okay. Okay, yeah.
The
what am I looking up?
1965 GTO. I want to know what they run now as an antique.
well, I can tell you it's over 25,000.
Oh my gosh.
Easy.
Been a decent investment to hold on to, But again, like you always got revisionist history, when you're looking back and like, well, it makes sense now.
When I graduated from law school, I bought a 73 240Z. I wish I had it back. But our daughter was born and it was not a 3-person car. So I grudgingly sold it.
Yes. Yep.
And I can tell you what I sold it for.
Yeah.
About $1,000 less than I paid for it. And I put 125,000 miles on it in the meantime.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
You got a good run out of it.
So I graduated from law school, went to work for a law firm in Columbia. They had me set up a satellite office here in Fayette.
Okay.
And it's down
In that building, or?
No. It was down across from the post office.
Okay.
That building's now gone.
Okay. Is it where Where was it?
It's right next to what's now Ma's Discount
The
Hooch.
liquor store. Okay, so just that to the west of it is where it was, or
to the east of it.
okay, all right. So where the Noah's Ark.
It's basically where the
platforms are.
parking lot is for the new buildings
Got it.
down there.
Yep.
Set up shop there and worked for that law firm for 18 months. And it wasn't making enough money to suit them, and so they fired me. And I saw the potential for having an office in Fayette, so I just kind of hung around. I got another job in Columbia working for the juvenile office as their legal counsel. And that helped me keep body and soul together while I developed a practice over here.
Wow.
And I'd come over here on holidays and Saturdays and just kind of developed a clientele.
Yeah. What kind of practice were you doing at that point?
Just civil, just
Okay.
basic real estate, simple wills. That was before trusts were in vogue.
Right.
The simple stuff, some probate.
Yep.
So
What was population of Fayette around that time?
it's about the same as it is now.
About the same as now.
Yeah, it hasn't grown much or decreased much.
Yeah.
I had a folding table, 2 folding chairs, and a selectric typewriter. That was my office equipment to start with.
Yes.
But I just stayed with it.
Yep.
And then this building that on 28 North Church that I bought it from an estate, and that's the one I paid $13,000 for. And it was from an estate, a Settle estate, I think it was.
Okay. But I also remember you telling me, wasn't there a full-grown tree growing in the middle of it?
Oh yes.
So you didn't buy
I specialize in buying stuff that's in beyond repair,
there you go.
extreme disrepair.
Yes.
It literally had a tree growing up through the floor of one of the rooms.
Like not a
And,
shrub.
and nobody would believe it. I should have taken a picture of it before
Yeah.
I had it torn out because nobody would believe.
I mean, like how big around are we talking? Like a weed
it
or
was probably 2-inch diameter.
yeah. So you're not just
mean,
cutting those with a lopper. You
No.
probably had to cut
It was.
with a
It
chainsaw.
would be too big to lop.
Yeah.
And how a tree ever got started. Of course, the soil is real rich. Building obviously has no basement under, just a
Right.
crawl space, and the soil hadn't been disturbed since the thing was built, which was in 1881, as near as we can tell.
Wow.
I'd haul 13 pickup truck loads of brush off the lot.
No way.
I counted them because
It's
it was
beautiful
grown
now,
up to
yeah.
the point where you could hardly see the house.
Wow. And that was kind of like still the main street of Fayette at that
Yes,
point, and
but,
it's just
but it had just
gone.
fallen into disrepair and nobody wanted it. And again,
because the Baptist church has been there forever. I mean, was the Baptist church?
no, the Baptist church was built, well, let's see. I guess the Baptist church was built then. I'm not sure it was. The building next to it, where the Baptist church parking lot now used to be, it's called Moon Motors. It was a car repair shop.
Really?
Yeah.
Whole building and everything there?
The slab on which the parking lot was covered with this building.
Wow.
It was a car repair shop.
Yeah.
Moon Motors. It was a Deatheridge and Moon at one point.
Moon. Do you remember who?
Milton Moon and Tom Deatheridge, and they were partners in a Dodge dealership. And that's how it started, and then it just kind of evolved into a car repair shop. They quit selling cars there.
Interesting.
And Chloe Deatheridge, Mr. Deatheridge's wife, worked across the street at the dry cleaners in later years.
Yeah,
where
which is
your
the-
ice cream shop is now. That used to be a dry cleaner store.
Not the coffee shop.
I met the coffee
The coffee shop. Yeah. I had heard of that at one point. That used to be dry cleaning.
Yeah.
We could use another dry clean. I don't know. I get my clothes dry clean, but I don't know if
Well, no,
anybody
there's
else.
another business you could get into.
There you go. Yeah. We'll just launch a new one. Let me know where you find these, $13,000 buildings, and
Well,
just throw a dry cleaner.
I think
in there.
they're kind of short supply right now.
Maybe CMU needs a write off, and they can.
Whatever.
No, don't go there.
So
You buy that building.
I was looking for a place to locate
Yeah.
since I got the practice kind of started.
Yep.
I'd been in that other building that was the only other building I was in before I
Yeah.
moved to this place.
Do you have any staff yet, or was it just you
Part-time.
part-time?
Usually somebody, college
Mm-hmm.
employee or spouse of a college employee that wanted
Right.
part-time work.
Yep.
I couldn't afford to pay for a full-time person.
And what was like pay back then? Are we in the 70s, 80s? Is that where we're at right now?
Well, I bought that house in 81.
Okay.
And so it was from 75 to 80 is when I was down there across from the post office.
Gotcha.
Well, actually from 73 to 80, because 2 of those years I was working for the other law firm. And then the last 3 or 4 years I was there solo and looking for a place to locate. And then Henry Summers and John Edwards had a real estate business.
Yeah.
And I think it was John that said, he knew I was kind of looking for a place. And he said, well, why don't you buy that and fix it up? And I took a look at it, and I said, oh, okay. It was rough.
Yeah.
But it was also at a time when the feds were offering tax credits for rehabbing historic buildings.
Yeah.
And depending upon how far you wanted to take it, you could get tremendous tax credits or just partial tax credits.
Yeah. Explain tax credits. I obviously know what they are. No. Explain what those are because I've always been told that because, owning this building, there's like, yeah, you can do things and get tax credits. Is it like you get like a credit card from the government that you swipe when you don't want to pay more?
No,
or like,
if you rehab the building according to their standards, like putting the correct kind of windows on it and the correct roof on it,
right.
and so forth.
Don't paint it purple.
Yes, don't do anything exotic on the outside. They don't really care too much what you do on the inside. It's what they do on the outside. You got to keep the look
Yep.
from the street.
That's good to know. I've always been curious about that.
And what it amounts to is if the building qualifies, and you have to involve professionals, people to help plan it, and accountants. But
do you get to tax credit those expenses too?
you get to depreciate those expenses, and then you keep a record of them, what you spent, and it goes into your basis on the building.
Gotcha.
And then when you sell the building, you don't have to report the increase in value as income, as capital gain.
Got it.
So it can be attractive to offset income from
Right.
other sources.
Yep.
And curiously, you can sell them if you
Yeah, I
have
remember you
excess
telling me that.
tax credits.
It's
So,
at a reduced. Is it at a
like
reduced amount?
when I did this building, I had several thousands of dollars of tax credits that I couldn't use, and so
Why could you not use them?
I
didn't
wasn't
need
making
them?
enough money.
Gotcha. Yep.
The tax credit offsets your tax liability.
Right.
If I made more money,
you were doing well enough in other.
well, I wasn't doing well
Who's
enough.
your
to
tax
use,
guy? I mean,
I wasn't doing well enough to use up all my tax credits.
Sure. Yeah.
And this building turned into quite an expensive project, as you can imagine.
And do those expire, or can you keep those for life?
You could keep them I don't know if they expire or not. What I did is I sold them.
Yeah.
I sold them for about 85 or 90 cents on the dollar.
Gotcha.
And there are accounting firms who have clients that have tax problems that will buy these tax credits and then resell them to their clients that have tax problems.
Interesting.
And so as a result, I get, say, 80 cents on the dollar for my tax credit. Then they turn around and sell it to their client for 90 cents on the dollar. And so their client gets to save 10% of their tax liability. And the accounting firm gets a cut in the middle.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just manipulation of numbers.
Sure. Right. Yep.
Kind of funny.
Monopoly money, right?
Yeah, monopoly money is a good way of describing it. But, it works.
Yeah.
And but you have to involve professionals along the way. impossible to do it yourself.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I found whenever I
You know, architects have to sign off on the plans.
Yeah.
You have to have plans, and then architects have to sign off on it, and they have to certify that it complies with structural standards at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say partial credits versus full credits, like my office building, it had when I bought it, it had shake shingle roofs.
Yep.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, I didn't want to put that back on there because of the expense and also the fire hazard.
Yeah.
And the maintenance issues.
Oh, now insurance won't even touch them.
And so I put asbestos shingles on it, so it wasn't a exact reproduction.
Right.
And I put double pane windows in it. Well, that's not exact reproduction.
Yeah.
But I didn't alter the exterior, and I put siding on it as opposed to it had clapboard siding on it. Well, you don't want to do that.
Yeah, I mean, you have some functional upgrades that you don't get the full credit, but you get some.
You don't change the floor plan,
Right.
Or the exterior, the footprint of it.
Yep.
Those sorts of things.
Right.
They didn't mind modifying. I modified the yard, put a parking lot in it. That's no big deal.
Yeah. So, I mean, I know you saw an opportunity back in Fayette, but what had you, besides seeing the opportunity, what kept you in Fayette? Did you enjoy doing that?
I like small town practice. I like knowing the people that are coming in to see you.
Yeah.
And, you know who you can depend on and who you can't depend on.
Sure. What do you mean?
Well, some people have a reputation for not paying their bills, for example.
Gotcha. Yeah. So you're saying you could be in a smaller town, you could be a bit more selective because you had an idea.
Yes.
Gotcha.
And I don't know. I like the small town touch. I like to be able to walk into the bank and know everybody.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And did you ever live in Fayette then? During any of that time, or has it mostly been?
No, we've lived in Columbia the entire time, but I've spent so much time over here. We got a farm over here. Mm-hmm. Spent a lot of time here. So,
Yep.
So there's that.
Nice. So did you practice for how long?
Started in 1973 and retired December 31st of 24.
24. What's that math?
That's about 51 years.
51 years.
And change.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you ran it for a long time. And why did you hang it up?
I wanted to be able to do a little traveling, and while I had good health. And I've always said I never wanted to die at my desk.
Yeah. You want to tell everybody how old you are or no?
I turned 80 in May.
Yeah, you're looking pretty good for 80. So have you traveled then since you? It's been 6 months since you retired.
Yeah, we've done some traveling.
Where'd you go?
We went to Philadelphia.
Okay, nice. Why?
Why?
Yeah, why?
Well, that's a historic place.
But you chose to go see the history.
Historically,
Got it.
Our eldest daughter lives in New York City, and I'm not a big fan of going to New York City right now.
Sure. Yep.
And so we agreed to meet up in Philadelphia. She could take the train down from Philadelphia. It's about a little over an hour ride for her.
Yeah, not bad.
And so we spent the weekend in Philadelphia.
Okay. Where else? Anywhere else?
Oh, we've been to Springfield and, local out-of-town trips.
Yeah.
I'm going to the Cardinal Ball game next week.
Nice. They're looking a little bit better-ish.
Yeah, a little.
When I moved to Minnesota, it was right around, I think, 2017 was when Cardinal games got really hard to see on TV. And then I was up in Minnesota where it was only Twins games, and the Twins have historically just been terrible. And so I just kind of stopped watching baseball. Baseball had magical years for me in like the 2003 to 2013 Cardinals. Like I could rattle off some rosters from our 2006 World Series, the 2011. But once I moved to Minnesota, I kind of just stopped watching baseball. And then it felt like after COVID, you could hardly watch any baseball anywhere. And then I didn't recognize any Cardinal players after a while. You're like, oh, Molina retired and And there's no more La Russa or anything like that. But do you follow them pretty well, or you just like
Oh,
going?
yeah. I follow them more closely when they're playing better.
That's right. Yeah. Absolutely. Same with Mizzou football. You know. Yeah.
Yeah. And some of the old favorites like the famous players, the ones that stayed around for a long time. That's the only team they ever knew.
Right. Right.
You know, Pujols, for example, was a fan favorite.
Yeah. That was hard when he left. I remember he was like my favorite player as a kid.
And Molina, I like Molina.
He stayed forever.
I think
Chris
he
Carpenter.
is I think he only played for the Cardinals. I don't think he
you're right.
played for anybody else.
Not even in a rookie season. I think you're right. Because I have one of his rookie cards. Baseball card collecting was big when I was a kid. I don't know if it was for you.
It was, but I never got into it.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh,
And
we
when
would-
we got a baseball card, we stuck it on our bicycle, so it'd make noise.
Yes.
Use a clothespin.
Clothespin, and then you just sound like you're riding a motorcycle. Yeah.
And the faster you go, the louder you go.
Yeah. We would get them in the cereal boxes. That's what we would get really pumped up. And then, you ever been to Itchy's flea market in Columbia?
Yes.
Yeah, that's where we would. I think our mom just used this to babysit us, after church with that. Just go to Itchy's, and we would just sift through baseball cards after baseball cards. My brother's gotten a lot of fights over who's, Jim Edmonds. I have a Jim Edmonds rookie card that my little brother claims is his rookie card. I think it's hiding somewhere in my house still to this day. So, but because he started for back then, the Anaheim Angels. That was where Jim Edmonds started. But so going to a Cardinal game, are you hopping on a plane anywhere soon?
I think we're going to go to Vegas in the fall.
Nice. Yeah. You have a daughter out there. Is that right?
She was there. She's now living in Cleveland.
Okay.
We're worldwide right now.
Fun. I'm going to London in 2 weeks.
Oh, you are?
Yeah. Have you been?
Long time ago.
Yeah.
Before we had children.
But you and Cindy went.
Yes.
Nice.
This was during the salad years. I bought a book called Europe on $10 a Day. Bad title.
How so?
It's not true.
Not true.
It's
Okay.
more like $10 an hour. And this was back in the, it's about late 70s
Yeah.
when I was still across from the post office.
Yeah.
I bought this book and I read it and I thought, well, this would really be a great way to see Europe. And that's all we could afford at the time. And the whole concept is you buy Eurail pass and you take old clothes, and then when they get dirty, you just throw them away.
What?
Take a backpack.
This was the book.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just saying.
Taught you all how to do this. Cheap places to stay. The Zimmers, which were basically a bed and breakfast throughout Europe. So that's what we did.
Was
over
it
there.
fun, at least?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was more than $10, but.
Well, the interesting thing of it is we ran out of money while we were over there. This was before they were accepting credit cards in the smaller towns in Europe. In London, you could use a credit card, but you get out in the countryside in Germany, you show them a credit card, and they'd say, "Well, what's that?"
Yeah. Yeah.
And of course, we couldn't even speak the language to
Right.
boot.
Right.
So, but we got by.
Yeah. Is there any must-sees I need to see while I'm over there?
Oh, well, of course, I'm sure things have changed a lot.
Probably.
We went through the Mercedes plant, which was very interesting in Germany.
Yeah.
That was a very interesting tour. Just, saw a lot of Gothic architecture. Everywhere you turn, there's Gothic architecture.
Yeah. I've heard the food is bad. Is it bad? Did you enjoy the food, or
Well,
can I get chicken tenders and fries? Like,
you
I
might
just
be
need
able
that
to
as the
now. There
baseline.
weren't many fast food places over there, except in Germany. The beer is room temperature.
yeah. Okay. Not a problem for me. I have yet to find a beer that I think tastes good.
In Germany, they like cold meat for breakfast, and the coffee that you can stand a spoon up in.
I think my father-in-law must have some German roots, because so for 4th of July we always do like beer brats, and then they will just eat them cold for breakfast.
They eat
And
cold meat,
animals.
cold meat and cheese for breakfast, and all of it
Heart
like
disease.
right out of the ice box, except the coffee. So we bought an old. We were going to ride the Eurail, and this was a year when every college student in the country went to Europe,
Yeah.
and so we couldn't even get to the train counter to cash in our Eurail ticket. So we didn't. We brought it home with us and got our money back. Bought an old car. At that time, you could buy a car at the post office, and just didn't have to have it inspected or anything. So we drove an old broken down Toyota on the Autobahn. That was quite an experience.
And then just leave it over there.
We sold it.
Sold it, yeah.
Bought it for $800. Sold it for $400.
Oh, nice. Okay. Pretty quick depreciation. There you go.
Then when we got ready to come back, we discovered we had a standby ticket on TWA.
Yeah.
That's when they were in business. And so we spent one night sleeping on the floor at Heathrow Airport, waiting for an opening. And the first plane we could catch back to New York was Air India, which was quite an experience riding that home. We were the only Americans types on this.
Interesting. Yeah.
And we were glad to get back.
Yeah. So, my perception of you is you kind of got to have a seat of observing Fayette without necessarily being in the thick of, not necessarily drama, but, you got to live in Columbia, operate a successful business over here for, did we say 51 years? Is that right?
Yeah, roughly.
You've seen a lot of things come and go from a business standpoint. What's your overall just opinion on the town of Fayette? What's worked, what hasn't, and why? And for me, I'm obviously passionate about Fayette. I've invested in it for sure. You've invested in it. But there's certainly a lot of people who are like, it's a tiny town whose population hasn't changed in 50 years. But, talk to me about your love and romance or lack thereof of the town.
Well, I like the town because I like the people.
Yeah.
I grew up with a lot of them. The camaraderie, the friendliness, everybody. There's advantages and disadvantages of living in a small town.
Yeah.
You know everybody, but everybody knows your business. So there's pluses and the minuses for it. But overall, I think it's more camaraderie in the community, and more people. You get into large towns, and Columbia's becoming a large town.
Yep, sure is.
You kind of...
What's your favorite place to eat over there?
D Rose. I like D Rose.
Yep.
It's a good place to eat.
Lunch or dinner? What's your usual for that?
Yes.
Both. Yes, both. Anytime. Equal opportunity.
Yeah. That's probably my favorite restaurant of the bunch.
Yeah. Obviously you've seen a lot of, specifically restaurants seem to really struggle in Fayette, outside of Emmett's, which was here for a very long time, and it
was
slowly coming back. But, there's always this kind of line between blaming the town of Fayette or blaming the businesses themselves. I mean, what's been some of your observation? Is there a restaurant that you miss that you wish stuck around, or?
Well, restaurant business is tough business, and the following can be pretty fickle.
Yeah.
Somebody gets mad because their dinner was, their soup was cold.
Right, sure.
And they just don't go back.
Which is interesting. I mean, they'll go back to McDonald's, if the fries are cold, but
yeah. You need I think a larger population base, unless you got a really drawing card. Now Emmett's, while in operation, had a great reputation. And
why? Just from being good, or
don't
did
know.
Rob have a big reputation?
Well, the food was good.
Yeah.
And people kind of like the small town, atmosphere and everything. Rob had it fixed up pretty neat.
Yep.
And an enormous number of people that Well, a lot of people I know in Columbia know about Emmett.
That's like the only thing they know about Fayette. Whenever I've talked to people in
That
Columbia,
and Central.
that's right. Well, and we did our CID paid for a study like 4 years ago where they did like a Google Maps tracking of what people were Googling to get to Fayette. And Emmett's, I think I had, somebody correct me, but it was probably 65% was Google Mapsing to Emmett's. That was like over 50% of the reason people from outside of our zip code would come into town, which was such a bummer when they shut down, because now I don't have a lot of choices, and I'm not a big Subway guy, but.
Well, it's, and being where it's located and everything, it's really harmful to just the local economy because you don't get the people coming downtown.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Especially with the ice cream shop. When they shut down, I mean, we can probably track up until this past spring, our sales probably shot in about half from when they shut down, because they closed beginning of or towards the end of last summer. There's just no reason to come to the square at all.
Well, there's a few shops around on the south side of the square.
Yeah, there are now. But even at that point in the summer, you had Gold Apple, you had that, the Red Dirt Rag, but outside of that, Ophelia's wasn't really kicking up yet. Have you been there for lunch, though?
I've been to Ophelia's. In fact, Pam, I had her retirement.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I came to that
thing there. Yeah, you came to that.
Yeah.
So Pam was very instrumental in me staying and doing as well as I did in Fayette.
Yeah. When did she start with you?
She started in, it was about early 90s.
Yeah.
It was right after Paige was born.
Okay. Yep. I need to have Pam on. I'm sure she'd give me some
Pam
history.
can tell you the nitty gritty.
She'd probably share some opinions too.
Probably.
Get some clicks on that one.
Probably.
Yeah.
Pam was great help.
Yeah.
Very dependable, very loyal.
Yep.
All of those things.
I've had some moments where I've almost reached out to Pam where I'm like, do you want to come back to work?
I think she would probably say nay.
Yes. Plus, this is not as calm as an environment as the environment that you had.
Well, it was calm sometimes, and sometimes it wasn't too calm.
Sure. Well, we've talked about a few things. Anything else you want to share? Sagely advice from being a couple years ahead of me?
Well, that's about it. That's about my life story.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed practicing law here.
Yeah.
Met a lot of really nice people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what's your dream?
Hopefully, I've helped them out a little bit along the way.
What's your dream for this phase of life? However many years?
Oh, well, try to stay healthy.
Yep.
Try to maintain a relationship with my kids.
Yeah.
And just enjoy my life with my wife.
Yeah, absolutely.
You
a golfer or anything?
We've had a good run. Pardon?
You doing any activities, golfing, anything like that? Don't you meet with a group for coffee?
We're pretty invested in our church.
Yeah. Where do you go?
Woodcrest in Columbia.
Yeah. Do you have any update on?
I drink a lot of coffee in the mornings with several of my buddies.
Yeah.
Two of them are Vietnam veterans.
Yeah. How is Woodcrest doing? I know there's been some rumblings of.
I think it's on the upswing right now.
Good.
All churches go through phases.
Yeah.
And they once in a while they have what's called a backdoor revival. People leaving, and it strengthens the church.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Well, I go to church right next to you guys.
Yes. I know.
Yep.
You let that slip once before when we were talking.
Yes, in your youth building.
Yes.
I played basketball there as a kid.
Oh.
A little upward basketball.
Oh, okay.
The carpeted floors.
Playing basketball on carpet is not.
Nope. You should not dive on the floor for that.
Not a good thing.
Nope. And that was my only positive basketball skill was hustle. I was willing to do about anything except for put the ball in the net, but I had hustle, that's for sure. So yeah, dive on the carpet, ruin your knees, But so doing a lot with Woodcrest, lots of coffee in the morning, and just kind of enjoying the rest of it.
Yeah, going out to the farm. We still own the farm out east of town.
Yep.
And in fact, I was talking to Russell Dean, who lives out there this morning, and I'm planning on going over there next week and doing some mowing,
Nice.
pasture mowing, and picking up some blackberries.
Oh man,
I love
Yeah,
to
you're
pick.
just.
I love blackberry cobbler.
You ever watched or heard of Little Bear, the show? I'm just just listening to. I envy the point of my life where I can just go. I think I'll wake up and maybe mow the grass and pick the berries and
Well, I don't
smell the
wake,
flowers.
I don't wake up hoping to mow the grass,
Yeah, I'm not a fan of mowing the grass.
but
no.
that falls on me. That's part of my domestic duties is
Yep.
to keep the yard mowed. So, in fact, I mowed it yesterday before it rained.
In Columbia, are you push mowing or are you?
It's self-propelled. But
Okay,
it's
so
a
you're
walk,
still
it's a
walking
walk
behind it. All right, look at you. That's how you stay healthy, right there.
Well, it's better than just riding.
Yeah.
As far as a rider wouldn't work very well in our yard anyway. We've got so many obstacles to go around.
Yeah. Because you're in an older neighborhood for sure.
Yes.
More mature trees and all that. So, well, this has been fun. I'll have to bring you on again sometime where you can give me some stories and maybe we can talk about, some business situations that you've been in and that I've been in or anything like that. We can certainly talk about
We can
that.
certainly talk about your business situations.
I know. I got enough of them. I just make them, just start going. And so you've been to the ice cream shop, haven't you? Here
To where?
you've been to the Henry's ice cream shop.
Oh,
Right?
yes, yes.
What's your favorite?
I got something with caramel in it that was really good.
We probably did a caramel thing. We did a caramel apple special last fall, maybe. It's not on the menu all the time. She did just make a peach, though. That one's pretty good if you like fruit. I'm not a big fruit in the ice cream.
I'm
guy,
not a
but-
peach person, but
No.
fruit in general I like.
Okay, yeah. I'm not really a big fruit in the ice cream, but people like it. So, yeah.
I like the ice cream. I think it's well done.
Yeah. How often are you coming back to Fayette now?
I try to get over here once a week or
Once
so.
a week. Nice.
It just kind of depends. I'm still wrapping up stuff with the law business. I get about a call a week, people wanting something done, and I tell them I'm retired, and they ask for a referral. And sometimes I have to dig out a file and give them a copy of something they've lost, whatever I did for them. They want
It's very kind of
copy
you.
of it.
Yeah.
So. And you're storing.
I know. Don't tell them where, but
I won't.
nowhere. It's in the clouds somewhere.
It's up in the cloud.
Up in the clouds. So, well, I appreciate you taking
Okay.
time with me, and we can dig into some more stories next time. But this was a good first run.